Hey everybody, Off the Mic Sports Network here. Another edition of Off the Top Rope. So SmackDown happened. That's a way to put it. The show happened. This is coming off of news that it's going to continue to be 3 hours, despite it was supposedly going back to two in June. That's not happening. They are staying with this as a 3 hour show, and tonight was another shining example of why this is the worst professional wrestling show on television right now. At least with Dynamite, and they had a bad week this week. At least with Dynamite, there's some interesting stuff that, and the 2 hour limit, at least makes it somewhat tolerable. But SmackDown just drags at so many points during the show. And the 3 hour time slot really just is exposed, the litany of issues with this show. Cody Rhodes, tried to save it, but the segment at the end of the show was just the latest example of John Cena. John Cena's heel turn just completely failing. Like, it was one of the most forced things. Cody did the best he could. Jay is just, a gimmick at this point. He's over. I get it. And this will be a flashy match, and a lot of people will be into it, but there was like no substance to it. There's no story. There's no story. John Cena's gone in 6 months. So I'll get into that later. But opening segment with Bianca Belair was fine. It was the shining example really of that. And I need to illustrate this. Naomi needs to win Money in the Bank. Naomi's heel work has been remarkable this year. Like it's legitimately like what has separated her in the women's division. And I think she should win Money in the Bank. I think she should cash it probably on Tiffany Stratton. Hell, if you want to make it even more interesting, you can go cash in on Io Sky. Go to Raw. Like Naomi needs to be the women's champion this year. This is one of the most loaded women's Money in the Bank fields because Stephanie Vaquer or Liv Morgan are probably going to qualify in the final one on Raw. I would hope it would be Stephanie Vaquer, but I could totally see it being Liv Morgan, and I would be okay with it. I mean, Stephanie in her first official match on Raw losing, even if it's a triple threat, like. But the bottom line is it's the most loaded women's Money in the Bank match, and I just think Naomi should win it. So, but yeah, she had some good stuff there. I mean, the match with the triple threat qualifying match itself was, the fans were really interested in it, but it was kind of a mess a little bit. I mean, Nia Jax busting out cross bodies. Nia Jax actually looked really good, but the finish was just extremely botched. Nia stacked them on top of each other. It could have been easily called a pin. And then because of the positioning of it, it took like a day and a half for Naomi to roll up Nia for the win. But, fun action, just very, very sloppy. And, unfortunately that didn't work out. So, Solo Sikoa has been pretty entertaining. And this whole thing with him and Jacob Fatu and JC Mateo, it's been great. But basically, JC Mateo faces R-Truth. No real tangible follow-up from R-Truth and his whole little mini storyline with John Cena. R-Truth is just hilarious, but there's just nothing here. This is just something to get us through week to week television. I do like what they're doing with the former Jeff Cobb, JC Mateo. The Tour of the Islands looks like a really insane, is one of the great moves. 2-minute match. He had a decent new music that he was using. Jimmy Uso comes in. They're seemingly teasing something with him. But again, this is just like, mid-card stuff, really mid-card fodder. And, the main reason why I'm interested in this is the whole Jacob Fatu thing, because he's clearly over and going to be splitting away from this at some point relatively soon. Him and Solo are headed for a feud. Street Profits, they have this whole car wash of a segment with the whole entire tag division. I like the Candice LeRae is now paired with DIY, but you just had basically the stereotypical segment where all the tag teams come out and say, yeah, why I deserve a tag team shot. And this is a great tag team division. And then the Wyatt show up. We don't really get much of a tangible explanation after this in a follow-up video why they're even involved in this. And, that's what's frustrating is like, there's nothing to follow up on here. So it's just like, okay. One of the cool things of the night, I will say, is that we saw Javon Evans on SmackDown, which is very cool. Ethan Page on commentary. They played into their whole thing that's going to happen at Worlds Collide. Some people are not going to like Javon Evans, taking the pin there, but this is the way that they've been booking him. And it maybe will make me feel inclined to believe that maybe he becomes the North American champion at Worlds Collide because I can't see Rey Fenix winning it because Rey Fenix is a SmackDown star. I don't see Laredo Kid winning that match because Laredo Kid is a AAA star, even if they may want to go do that. And so it comes down to the two NXT guys, Ethan Page, who just won it, and Ethan Page doesn't really need it. And so maybe this is a means to just get, Javon Evans the championship. We'll see. It was cool to see Javon Evans on the show. I mean, there was really no story of this. This is really to promote Worlds Collide, which is fine. But again, it's just like, this is all the stuff that I kind of clamor with, you know, AEW. Sometimes they just put mindless matches that really don't have a story to it. But again, I like I said, I was, and good for Los Garza, they get a win because it sets them up. So at least it's building to something at the pay-per-view and it helps. But it was thrown together at the last minute, just out of nowhere. But I did like that they gave a nice showcase to Javon Evans on this. Yeah, then women's U.S. title picture is just a mess. Like, it's just, I love Zelina Vega. I love Chelsea Green. I love that Chelsea Green's really trying after her broken nose. But we're just literally doing nothing in this women's division. Zelina, like, between her theme music and just like she's not really connecting as a baby face. Like, this isn't working. Like, the Women's United States Championship feels significantly lesser than the Women's Intercontinental Championship, which is going to be on a premium live event next week because Becky Lynch and Lyra Valkyria just feels way hotter than whatever they're doing in this division. And I like a lot of the people involved. It's just nothing feels significant here. And this just felt really, thrown together, thrown in. It's just, like I said, Chelsea Green's outstanding. Zelina Vega's great, but this has just not worked. And it's sad, honestly. And it's another late example of what was happening. Carmelo Hayes and Miz, like, they continued their whole build. I don't know what's going on. Damian Priest. So, I mean, the one thing I will say before I move on, Zelina Vega did backstage seemingly run into Julia. So if you want any indication of where things are going, I don't think Julia is going to win Money in the Bank. But if you want any indication of where this might be going, and God bless Zelina, if she gets in the ring with Julia, Julia's going to kill her. Julia is going to kill her. I love Zelina to death, but yeah, I think that would be welcomed. But I just, like I said, I just don't like the direction of that championship there. So Damian Priest then, has a quick little promo teasing something with Jacob Fatu. It'll be interesting to see what happens to Drew McIntyre when he comes back because he was effectively written off of television because he was pretty banged up. Fatu, Andrade, and Carmelo Hayes had a really good Money in the Bank qualifying match. It was the longest match of the night. It was really, really entertaining. Andrade surprisingly won this match. I thought Carmelo Hayes felt like the winner here because Fatu wasn't going to win it. The execution was a little bit wonky in terms of, like, Solo getting involved in the match, but you know what's going on here. Solo's trying to screw him over, is trying to screw over Jacob at every possible turn. I do like how Jacob reacted and after the match, and just like, he doesn't trust him anymore. So it's a decent, it's honestly one of the better stories on this really lifeless show. But yeah, Andrade wins, really good match. I don't know what they're doing with Carmelo Hayes, man. Like, I hope something's coming out of this because that kid is unbelievable. And it just felt like, he could potentially win the qualifier and then ultimately win Money in the Bank. I don't mind Andrade in this match. Andrade is going to be spectacular, and it's going to be a fun little direction to see what they do going into Money in the Bank. I don't think he'll win the briefcase, but that's an interesting pick there because he's deserved to be featured in a more prominent position for a while now. CM Punk being in a Money in the Bank qualifying match, by the way, Chad Gable's has had two Money in the Bank qualifying matches. El Grande Americano is going to be in this one against CM Punk and AJ Styles. I'm sorry, all you people who are saying Karrion Kross should have gotten into a qualifying match. Did you just hear what I said? Yes, I understand it's El Grande Americano, but still, Chad Gable, we're taking away kayfabe here. It's Chad Gable, it's AJ Styles and CM Punk in the same match. You fucking kidding me? That's insane. Liv Morgan, Stephanie Vaquer, and Ivy Nile is the final Raw Women's Money in the Bank qualifier. So, uh, so that'll be interesting. Um, Cody had cut a really good promo. John Cena, then Jey Uso comes out, does his whole shtick. Um, with where he restarts the music. John Cena comes out. He basically calls them both John Cena wannabes, which okay. Um, he then introduces Logan Paul, talks him up as like one of the only people who's doing hustle, loyalty, and respect. Um, better as well as him, and it felt really forced. They teased some tension. And then, the baby faces stood tall heading into their tag team match, which will be a week from Saturday at Money in the Bank. Listen, not a whole lot happened on this show. Not a whole lot happened on this show. And look, I really believe that this show, if it were 2 hours, would land so much better than a 3-hour show. But the third hour is really hurting the show, and it makes it one of the hardest wrestling shows to watch, because it's just like, outside of like the Bianca stuff at the start. I mean, there was some good action in this show, but a lot of it just didn't really mean anything. I mean, yeah, obviously you get the sort of tease thing for Worlds Collide, and it was fun to see some of this stuff. But the women's U.S. Championship stuff has not really done anything. The tag team division, this was one of my least favorite weeks for the tag team division, because let's be real, nothing happened. Nothing tangible of note happened. The Wyatts just stood tall again, and basically the same thing. So I don't know, man. Like they've got their work cut out for them here, because like they I don't know if they're gonna just give more surplus of talent to figure this out, but it's just 2 hours of NXT feels like a much easier watch than 3 hours of SmackDown. I mean, Dynamite has not been good, particularly for a while, but Dynamite in a 2-hour stretch, has better end-to-end action, and than SmackDown does. Like, it's just, SmackDown is a hard show to watch on a week-to-week basis, and not even John Cena and Cody Rhodes could really save this show. There was a couple things that I liked, but it was not great. So, anyway, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.